Most people think search and rescue teams exist to find people. That's what the training manual says anyway. But I've been running search operations for 17 years now, and I can tell you that half the time, we're not actually looking for the missing person. We're looking for permission to stop. That sounds harsh, I know, but the statistics don't lie. On average, we recover bodies only about 30% of the time. The other 70% just disappear. Nobody knows where they went, what happened to them, or if they're even dead. They're just gone. The thing about being a search and rescue coordinator is that you spend most of your time arguing with decision makers who've never set foot in the wilderness. They want quick answers and tight timelines. They want you to search a square mile of dense forest for a missing hiker and have them back home by dinner. But I've seen what the wilderness does to people. I've seen it consume them. I've seen it change them. And some of those things we find don't look like anything we set out to rescue anymore. My name is Michael, and this is what happened to our team during Operation Clearwater 3 winters ago. The missing person was a woman named Sarah Chen, 28 years old, reported missing from the Cascade Range in Washington. She'd gone hiking alone on a Friday morning and never came back. Her car was found in the parking lot, keys still in the ignition, door hanging open. Her phone, wallet, and ID were inside the vehicle. The park ranger who found it said something felt off immediately. The driver's door wasn't just open, it was forced open, like someone had yanked it hard enough to tear the hinges. Sarah's mother called it in around midnight. By dawn, we had a team mobilized, and we were heading into the forest. The weather forecast warned of heavy rain moving in that afternoon, but we had maybe 8 hours before the conditions became impossible. I remember standing at the trailhead with my team and feeling that weight settling on my chest. 17 years of experience told me this wasn't going to end well. We found the first thing about 4 hours in. Sarah's jacket was hanging from a pine tree branch about half a mile from where her car was parked. It should have been a solid lead. The jacket was still damp, suggesting it hadn't been there long. But here's what kept me up that night. There was no trail leading to that tree. No broken branches, no disturbed undergrowth, no signs of someone moving through the forest from the road to that location. The jacket was just there, suspended on a branch 8 feet high, as if it had been placed there deliberately. My deputy, a woman named Claudia, climbed up and retrieved it. She mentioned that the bark around the branch where the jacket hung was fresh, recently scraped. Someone had been on that branch, or something. I told the team we should expand our search radius. We split into 2 groups. My team continued deeper into the forest, following compass bearings, while the second team made wider sweeps through the surrounding area. That's when we heard the first scream. It came from behind us, echoing between the trees, and every member of my team went rigid. Claudia radioed the second group immediately, asking if anyone had made that sound. The response came back confused and negative. They were 2 miles away, moving in the opposite direction. So that scream came from somewhere in front of us, from the direction we hadn't explored yet. I made the call to push forward. We walked for another 2 hours, and the forest kept changing around us. The trees grew closer together, blocking out more light. The undergrowth became thicker. The air got colder, even though it was still afternoon, and we kept hearing sounds. Footsteps that stopped when we stopped. Branches cracking in the distance. Something that might have been breathing, deep and heavy, moving parallel to our line of march. My team stayed close. Nobody wanted to be alone. Around 3 in the afternoon, we found the second piece of evidence. It was Sarah's hiking boot. The right one, sitting upright in the middle of a small clearing. The boot was clean, like it had been placed there recently. The laces were still tied. There was no foot inside it. But there was something wrong about the way it was positioned. It was angled slightly, as if someone was standing in it, invisible, watching us. I knelt down to examine it, and Claudia asked me not to touch it. She said she had a feeling we shouldn't disturb anything. That was unusual for her. Claudia wasn't the superstitious type, but she was right. We should have listened to her instincts about a lot of things that day. We radioed the findings to base camp. Our team leader, a man named Holloway, told us to document everything and keep moving. He said the rain was coming faster than predicted, and we needed to find Sarah before nightfall. That's when I realized how little time we actually had. The sky was darkening noticeably, and the temperature was dropping fast. Holloway was right. We needed to find her, so we kept moving. The forest got weirder the deeper we went. We started seeing things that didn't make sense. There were pieces of clothing hung from branches all over the place. A sock here, a shirt there, a scarf draped across a fallen log like someone had arranged it carefully. All of it was Sarah's. All of it was placed too high or too far from any logical path for Sarah to have gotten there on her own. Claudia voiced what everyone was thinking. She said, maybe Sarah was playing some kind of game, leaving a trail for us to follow. But why would someone do that? Why would someone take off their clothes and hang them in a forest instead of just calling for help? That's when we heard the laughing. It was faint at first, carried on the wind between the trees. But it was definitely laughing. It sounded like a woman, and it was coming from deep in the forest, somewhere ahead of us and to the left. I called out to Sarah. I shouted her name several times, told her we were search and rescue, that we were here to help. The laughing stopped. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then, something moved fast through the undergrowth, something large, moving away from us and deeper into the forest. We followed it. I don't know why I made that decision. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to turn back, to get my team out of those woods, to call in the authorities and have them cordon off the area. But I was the leader. I was responsible for finding Sarah Chen. And whatever was out there in that forest, I believed at that moment that it was connected to her disappearance. We ran after the sound for maybe half a mile. The forest became a blur. Trees whipped past us. Branches tore at our faces. The undergrowth grabbed at our feet. And then we broke through into another clearing. This one was different. It was larger, and it was shaped in a perfect circle, as if someone had carefully removed all the trees from this exact area. In the center of the clearing stood a shelter. It was made from branches and forest debris, constructed with an intelligence and precision that no lost hiker could possibly achieve. It was the size of a small cabin. The entrance faced away from us, and from where we stood at the edge of the clearing, we could see smoke rising from somewhere inside. Someone was in that shelter. Someone had built it and was currently maintaining a fire. I radioed Holloway immediately. I told him what we'd found and asked for his instructions. His response took 30 seconds to come through, and when it did, his voice sounded strange, distorted by radio static. He told us to approach with caution and attempt to make contact. He also told us that the second search team had found something very disturbing. They'd found Sarah's other boot. It was sitting at the edge of a cliff, pointing downward. There was no body at the bottom. They'd repelled a fall. No broken branches, no disturbed earth, just the boot, positioned perfectly at the cliff's edge, like an invitation. I didn't tell my team what Holloway had said about the other boot. Instead, I approached the shelter. Claudia came with me. The rest of the team stayed at the edge of the clearing, weapons ready, radios up. As we got closer to the shelter, I could smell something. It was like nothing I'd ever encountered before. Not quite rotten, not quite chemical. It was something between copper and burning plastic. The smell got stronger as we approached the entrance. I called out, identifying myself as search and rescue. I said we were looking for Sarah Chen. I asked if anyone inside needed medical attention. There was no response. Claudia reached the shelter entrance first, and she looked inside. Her entire body went rigid. She didn't scream. She didn't back away. She just stood there, frozen, staring into that shelter. I asked her what she saw. She didn't answer. So I moved beside her and looked inside myself. What I saw in that moment changed something fundamental in my understanding of what's possible. The shelter's interior was lined with photographs, hundreds of them. They were pinned to every surface, arranged in careful rows and patterns. And every single photograph was of Sarah. But the photographs weren't of Sarah as she was on Friday morning when she went hiking. These photographs showed Sarah at every possible age. Baby photos, childhood pictures, teenage years, adulthood. But some of the photos showed Sarah at ages she hadn't lived yet. There were images of Sarah as an elderly woman, as a young mother, as a bride. Some of the photos showed Sarah in places that didn't exist, in front of landmarks that weren't real. And all of the photographs, every single one, were labeled with the exact date and time they were supposedly taken. The dates ranged across decades.
In the back corner of the shelter, there was a wooden chair. On the chair sat a tape recorder and a handwritten note. The note was in a handwriting that looked almost like Sarah's, but wasn't quite right. It said, "Find me before I become her. Find me before I become them. Find me before there's nothing left to find." Claudia ran outside and vomited. I stood there staring at that note. The implications of what I was looking at hit me slowly, like drowning. Someone, or something, had been collecting photographs of Sarah across time. Someone had been documenting versions of her life that hadn't happened yet, or that were happening in a different reality altogether. I stepped toward the tape recorder. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely press the play button. The tape crackled to life, and I heard Sarah's voice. She was crying. She said, "If you're hearing this, that means I made it far enough into the forest to be truly lost. It means the thing that's been following me finally caught up. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to describe it. But it's not like anything on Earth. It doesn't make sense. The way it moves doesn't follow the laws of physics. The way it speaks is like hearing thoughts instead of words. The first time I saw it, I was only 3 minutes into my hike. It was standing beside the trail, and it was wearing my face. Not a mask, not a costume. It was actually wearing my face, like it was a piece of clothing. There were 3 other versions of me standing behind it. We looked at each other, and I felt like I was seeing my own death from different angles. I ran. I ran deeper into the forest, trying to get away, trying to reach a place with more people, more witnesses. But the forest isn't a normal place. The farther you run into it, the bigger it becomes. The more lost you get, the more you realize that being lost might have been the original state. This thing has been hurting me deeper into the woods. It's been leaving pieces of my clothes as markers. It's been using my voice to lead me in circles. And now I think I understand what's happening. I think the forest isn't just hunting me. I think the forest is collecting me. I think it's been collecting me across all possible versions of myself, from every timeline, every reality where I ever took this hike. The photographs are proof. The thing wearing my face is proof. And if you're hearing this, you need to get out of that forest immediately. Because it's not done collecting. It's never done. And if you stay too long, if you go too deep, it will start collecting you too. It will wear your face. It will place photographs of your future deaths in beautiful arrangements. It will leave notes in your handwriting from moments you haven't lived yet. Do not stay. Do not search. Do not try to find me. Because finding me means becoming me. And there's nothing good waiting at the end of that path. The tape ended. I was standing in a shelter in the middle of a forest, holding a tape recorder with Sarah Chen's voice still echoing in my ears, and I made the decision to get my team out of there immediately. I radioed Holloway. I told him we were aborting the search and returning to base camp. He tried to argue with me, tried to convince me to keep searching, but I cut him off. I told him we needed to leave. Now, my team didn't ask questions. We ran back through the forest, following our GPS coordinates back toward the trailhead. The rain started as we ran. It came down in sheets, reducing visibility to almost nothing. The wind howled through the trees like something alive, like something angry that we were leaving. I heard it following us. I heard footsteps that matched our pace exactly, always staying just at the edge of our flashlight beams. I heard breathing that didn't sound human. And I heard laughter that might have been Sarah's or might have been something else wearing Sarah's voice. We made it back to the trailhead as darkness fell completely. The team that had been searching the cliff area was already there, sitting in their vehicles with the engines running. Holloway arrived 20 minutes later, and he looked furious. He demanded to know why we'd abandoned the search. I told him what we'd found. I showed him the photographs from inside the shelter. His face went pale. He radioed base camp and recommended that the search area be officially closed. He didn't explain why. He just said the terrain was too dangerous and conditions were deteriorating too rapidly. To this day, I don't know if Holloway believed what I told him about the shelter, or if he saw something else in those photographs that terrified him just as much. Sarah Chun was never found. The second search team did recover her other boot from the cliff edge, but no other remains were ever discovered. The official report classified her as a missing person, presumed dead. The shelter we found was never located again. 2 weeks after the search ended, Claudia requested a transfer to a different department. She wouldn't talk about what happened in that forest. The other members of my team also requested transfers over the next few months. I stayed on. I completed my 17 years, and then I requested my own transfer, not to a different department, but away from search and rescue entirely. The reason I'm telling you this story now is because something happened last week that made me reconsider everything I experienced in that forest. I received an email with no sender address. Inside was a photograph. It was a photograph of me standing in front of the shelter in the forest, and the photograph was dated 40 years in the future. I'm not in that forest right now. I haven't been back to those woods in 3 years. But somehow, somewhere, in some version of events that I haven't lived yet, I'm going to return to that forest. And based on what I saw happen to Sarah Chun, based on the photographs and the tape and the note written in her handwriting from a moment she never lived, I'm very much afraid of what I'm going to find when I get there. The forest has been collecting me too. and I think I finally understand why it wants us. It's not hunting us. It's creating a collection. A museum of all possible versions of ourselves, stretched across every timeline, every reality, every moment that could have been. Sarah is still in that forest somewhere. And so am I. And so are you if you ever go deep enough to truly get lost.